Sometimes in life we just suffer. Sometimes it's from being totally withdrawn, or so much stress that we are totally anxious, or so tired that we are totally burnt out. But our current position is not our final destination. No, indeed. There's hope. So whether it's your personal life, your career, your relationship, your business, or your job, we say there's reason to believe again. And we present from Andy's personal development, the breakout room. It's the place for health, happiness, and prosperity. Stay tuned for more. Hi, and welcome to this episode of The Breakout Room. I am Andy, and I'm your host, and it's an extreme pleasure for us to be in your homes, in your houses, in your vehicles, wherever you are listening to this amazing podcast. This episode is entitled Addressing the Need for Speech Therapy with Jeaneen Tang, and she's anxious to share all this valuable content and information with you guys. So, you know the three watchwords: health, happiness, and prosperity. Today, we're going to focus on health and happiness. And if you have both of them, it could sometimes lead to some level of prosperity. So, now let's introduce our guest. Jeaneen Tang is a speech language pathologist with over 20 years of experience working with early intervention, that is 0 to 3 years old, to the elderly. She specializes in early language development and has a passion for training parents, caregivers, and other educators on how to best to address the needs of young children with learning to understand and express themselves. Her goal is to shake up how we approach language development and to decrease the number of children need speech therapy. She says she's not just a speech language pathologist, but also a mother of a special needs son, Chi. So, without further ado, let's welcome this amazing guest for this amazing episode live in the breakout room, Jeaneen Chang. Aloha, Jeaneen.
Aloha, Andy.
Welcome, and we are glad to have you. We appreciate you, and we hope you enjoy your stay with us.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, first of all, could you give us a bit of a background with regards to how you could probably recall some of the earlier years of your childhood when you were growing up as a young lady, and maybe in a way how it impacted what you are currently doing today? Share with us, please.
Absolutely. So I remember being 8 years old, and my
Ah,
grandfather was very sick, and he ended up passing away. And
mm,
at the time, I felt very helpless. You know, you
wow.
want to help to take care of your grandparents, but he wasn't able to walk on his own, take care of himself. And being only 8 years old, I couldn't do that, for him. And I felt like I wanted to be that kind of person who would be able to help other people. Like I wish that I had helped my grandfather. And so growing up, I wanted to be a teacher at one point, and then um, I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. And so in high school, I played sports and, so I was very physical and active. So I wanted to be a physical therapist because I thought that's the kind of person that could have helped my grandfather. And I went to graduate school because you needed to have a master's degree in order to become a therapist that made a difference. But when
Okay.
I was applying to graduate school, when I was thinking about going to graduate school, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do physical therapy because I did my bachelor's in English literature and creative writing because I knew that I needed a master's for therapy. So I got my bachelor's in something completely different. So I thought,
Hmm.
maybe do I want to be a professor to teach English and help people that way? Because I think English is, learning how to write and read and express yourself that way is really important. And then somebody brought up, have you thought about speech therapy? And I really hadn't heard about speech therapy um, until that point. And at my University of Hawaii in Manoa, where I grew up, they had a speech therapy program, and I thought, what a great way to pursue this way of helping people. And I'm really glad I did because physical therapy, there's a point where you can no longer do it because you're physically unable to help other people because you become too old, become too weak. But with speech therapy, I can do speech therapy as long as I'm able to have all my faculties of talking and communication, and I don't need to lift people, and it's all about play and continuing to help others thrive and become successful communicators.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. We appreciate that. What does a speech language pathologist do? How would you describe the work of what you do, and how does one become a speech language pathologist?
Well, for early intervention, it's a lot of structured play. It might look
Mm.
like I'm just playing with a child, but I'm
Uh huh.
trying to, meet them where they are and use playful strategies in order for them to learn how to understand language and then also learn how to express language. So it's
Right.
just a matter of teaching them how to understand and express. And then when you work with older children and adults, it's all about problem solving, it's about planning, sequencing, higher level cognition. But for early intervention, it's a lot about structured play. And in order to be a speech language pathologist, you do need a master's degree. So you
Mm-hmm.
do need a lot of science based classes, and you need to apply to a master's program. You need to go through the program, have your internships, and also pass the examinations in order to be licensed. Yeah.
Wow. Sounds a bit challenging and extensive, but it's an unusual feel, and I'm really highly curious about it. And thank you for sharing. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you. So, with regards to the work that you do, why do you think so many children actually need speech therapy? What's the challenge surrounding that?
I think there are definitely children who have special needs, right? They have a
Yeah.
language delay because of something neurological or some kind of maybe autism or Down syndrome or something like that. But there are also a lot of normal developing children who just are late talkers, not so much on their fault, but it's because their parents are such great caregivers in a way that they have tended to all of their needs, and they've never had to really had to express themselves. They never had to, ask for something because everything was provided for them. And I believe that, a lot of the children that need early intervention speech therapy, a good percentage of them wouldn't have needed speech therapy if their parents were trained ahead of time, if their early teachers were trained better. Parents get trained on how give birth, how to
Mhm.
take care of the baby, how to change the baby, from their clothes and diapers and feed the baby. But they're not taught how to interact with the baby and how to really develop that language and provide practice for the child.
Yeah, and that's a key part, a key component of the whole overall holistic development of the child, and it should be something that we need to pay much more attention to. Who are the most influential people in your field? Because it is so rare, so unusual to me. It's like first time actually, and I'm thinking about several fields where you hear about certain doctors, certain names that pop out of your head. But with regards to what you do, who are the most influential people in your field of service?
Directly to me, I think the most influential was my mentor. When I
Uh huh.
finished graduate school and got my first job in the school district in Hawaii, I had an amazing mentor, and I
Mm-hmm.
would literally call her every day. Her name is Kathy Mayamori, and
Yeah.
she's now retired. She's retired from the school district, but now she's on faculty at the university part time. And I don't know personally any big name speech therapists, but the ones she is definitely someone who I learned in the trenches how to work with kids, how to deal with parents, how to work, develop really good goals, how to implement those goals. And I think, you know, big names are not who you learn directly from. It's the person who you work every day with that you admire so
Wow.
much for their achievements.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Janine. With regards to your personal challenges, with Chi, for example, how old is he now?
My son is 11 years old and he's going to be 12
11.
in October. Yeah.
Wonderful. How much of a part, and I know it probably would have been special, that your specialist area or your area of expertise help you to be so much more competent as a mother to Chi?
Yes. So, Che was a normal developing child until 13 months old, where he had an unfortunate fall off our bed. And
Yeah.
even though it was only 18 inches off the ground, it was the perfect fall to create a very large a brain bleed in his head. And he had to have an emergency craniotomy. And a few days later, he had a stroke. So
Mm.
from 13 months on, our world changed. And I think he's very fortunate. And I'm very fortunate that I am a speech therapist because every interaction I have with him, I'm using the strategies I know as a speech therapist to build his language, to build his understanding, to build his, cognition and problem solving and his ability to have conversations with people. And I used to get asked, do you do speech therapy with your son? And I go, every day, whether he knows it or not, or whether I know it or not. I can't not be a speech therapist. With every interaction I have with a child or a person, I'm always working on how to make that person a better communicator or how to keep that conversation going. And I think I'm very fortunate that I'm a speech therapist, and it's come a long way for him. He's doing very well. He still has some physical challenges, but he's just the sweetest little boy. And
Yeah, wonderful. I saw some videos with him playing basketball and running up a hill and stuff. Wonderful. It's wonderful pictures. So thank you for sharing. Let's look at the book for a moment. And I want to put up on screen here, if I can share. Let me see if I can find it for us so you can have a look. Of course, you're very familiar with this,
yes.
but where did you get the title Play Dumb and Sabotage? How did that title came about?
So play dumb and sabotage. I've been using that term for so many years, so many years
Uh-huh.
since I first started doing speech therapy in the schools because kids, they want to be smarter than you, right? And sometimes when you're playing dumb, so I might ask a kid like, "Oh, does a dog go meow?" So and they go, "No, that's wrong." Or
Yeah.
you might give them the wrong item that they were asking for, and they're like, that's not correct. I want the other thing." But in terms of parenting and caregiving, Playing dumb is to mindfully under anticipate the child's needs. And, because with caregivers, they know exactly what their child needs, whether it be a little grunt or a cry or just, I know they're going to be hungry at this time. I'm going to get their food ready. Oh, their diaper's wet. I'm going to change their diaper. Oh, they're cold. I'm going to give them a blanket. So when they're caregiving, you're over anticipating your child's needs because you want to be a good caregiver. You want to have your child be happy. You don't want your child to be crying or upset or uncomfortable. So you meet their needs before the child even really is able to understand that there is a need, right? So for parents, and it's the same thing with language. When you go further, besides just the basic caregiving, like during snack time, one good example is when parents give a snack, they might give a whole bowl of goldfish or something that the child might want to eat, where maybe just giving a couple pieces would allow the child to indicate in some way that they want more or that they need more.
Mm, yeah.
Having a toy that they love, you know they love that toy, but you have it in sight but out of reach. So the child needs to ask for more. So you have things where you know that they want them, but you play dumb and you mindfully under anticipate. And the sabotage part of that plays into playing dumb because you are creating opportunities for them to practice that language, right? You're purposely doing things in order for them to have as much repetition and practice that they become masterful in their language communication and become more confident communicators.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Janine. I appreciate that. What was the driving force that made you actually write the book, and how challenging was the research, the editing and stuff to get it out?
So I have been wanting to do some kind of handbook or something toolbox for parents for a really, really long time.
Hmm.
And I just didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to I was really good at making handouts for parents, like here's a one piece of paper, here's a handout, but not really explaining it in a long form. And I knew that in order to create a greater impact, having a book available to reach a broader audience was really important. And I actually came across a company called Self-Publishing School, and it was able to provide a program where you self-publish your book, but they also provide you with a mentor, a writing mentor, to kind of guide you through the process. They also connect you with like a list of editors, and you can send that out. You have to email out to the editors, and then you send out your manuscript. They help you. The company helps you with your title design, their book cover design, and formatting, and all that stuff. So that was very helpful because I'm not techie at all. I cannot design anything to save my life. So that was super helpful because typically, if you're going to write a book, you need to have the manuscript done. You need to shop it around to different places, and in order for your book to get even picked up.
Yeah.
So going the self-publishing route was the best route for myself because I felt like to kind
Go
of
ahead.
be have my
Yeah.
hand held throughout the whole thing.
Right.
Um, and the writing process would have been faster if I was a little bit more consistent and diligent about sitting down every day to type. So it took me just over a year to get it written because, like going to the gym. Once you get to the gym, it's fine, but getting to the gym is hard. So getting yourself to sit down in front of the computer to type, it was harder than to like, the anticipation of, oh, what am I going to write about today? Or how am I going to do it? So it's doable.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. So, what is the biggest takeaways from your book, Janine? What do you really want people to get from the contents that you have written in the book?
The biggest overall theme is to be able to have the child practice language and how
Yeah.
the parents and teachers help to shape that we
Okay.
create these opportunities for them to practice. And one of the biggest lessons in the book is, you are a good caregiver, a good caregiver, parent, or educator by
Hmm.
knowing, anticipating. But to pull that back, to mindfully under anticipate, takes a lot more energy than to anticipate,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
when you ask a child questions, don't ask a yes no question unless you're ready to honor that no. So I'm not sure if
Mm.
you have kids or not, but when you ask a child, "Are you ready to have dinner? Are you ready to clean up? Are you ready to do this or that? Or can you do this?" If they say no, you got to honor that, right? So to get away from that, you offer choices. We're going to eat a snack. Would you like to have an apple or orange? We're going to get dressed. Do you want to wear the green shirt or blue shirt? We're going to get ready for bed. Do you want to brush your teeth first or do you want to read a book first? You offer choices and also provide that vocabulary. So I like to hold things about shoulder width apart so they can see the items and hear the vocabulary. And then even if they're not verbal, they might look at whatever they want and you can fill in those words.
Yeah. Wonderful. You provide training for caregivers and for parents. How challenging is it for you to have them change their mindset or their methods, the way that they are accustomed to doing things, whether it's culturally or otherwise, and to go into a part where you know from a professional and a practical example is the better way for them to deal with the challenges of what you are the expert in?
Yes. With parents, there is such a wide range of receptiveness to
Yeah,
speech therapy, right?
yeah.
Some parents, right off the bat, they're like, teach me everything that I need to know and I will implement it. And then there are those parents who, they're kind of the parents who are in denial at first. They're like, no,
Mm,
everything's fine with my child. It's fine.
mm,
Nothing's wrong. They'll be
yeah.
fine. And then time goes on. And, with early intervention, they get their services until they're 3 years old. So some of those parents are the ones who waited till they're 2 years old to get tested, two and a half sometimes. Those are the parents who, once their mindset shifts about, okay, I will try speech therapy out for my child, and they start seeing the progress the child is making, then they are able to shift their own mindset at home and do those opportunities. It might take a little bit longer for those parents to really accept everything that you're saying because they were so. It's almost like you know, it's almost like you're attacking their ego or their parenting
Mm,
skills
yeah,
when you're
yeah.
saying you should do this a different way in order to better your child. But once they get past that, we're not attacking their ego, we're not attacking their parenting, caregiving skills, and we're just trying to introduce a different way to communicate with your child, then usually they're a lot more open. And I haven't had parents who were completely, you know, not accepting anything I say. It just takes a while
That's
sometimes.
yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you for sharing, Janine. Are you involved in any book talks or workshops or live seminars where you get the chance to, on hand, interact with parents and other interested persons with regards to the technology, the techniques, and all the guidelines that you have stipulated in the book?
Currently, I'm working locally in Los Angeles and reaching out to different preschools, the YMCA's, early
Yeah.
language centers. But I would like to branch out and do some online trainings and do some online education conferences as a guest to in order to reach a broader audience, and hopefully, through this podcast and other podcasts, that people will go to my website and reach out because I'm very willing to meet with anybody anywhere, online or in person, if it's locally. And that's my big passion, is to, the training part of it, because that's where I think the most impact will be.
Hmm. Yeah, understood, and I agree fully with you. How long has the book been out? How long has it been published?
The paperback has been out since February.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a Kindle version
Yeah.
available since April, and the audiobook is now available on Audible, and it will be available everywhere other audiobooks are. So it's on Ingram Spark, so people can, bookstores can order it at wholesale, libraries can order it as well. Just consumers can order it, and anywhere actually, anywhere books
Yeah.
are available online, it's
Mm-hmm.
available.
All right. So, what kind of response have you gotten so far from persons who have actually read the book?
I've had really great responses, and I think the most validating ones are from other speech therapists that I've worked with, and also the parents that I've worked with my clients, because the speech therapist, validation from your peers is so important. You
Yeah.
know, my mentor was saying every new speech therapist needs to read this book, and I think that's where I want everything, to go towards. All the new speech therapists, new parents, um, any caregiver, any teacher would be, I want to have all my friends who are having children right now. I am giving them my book as a baby shower gift and saying, this is your parenting before you have your child. So
Yeah. That's really nice of you, Janine. Thank you for sharing. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you. So, folks, you have been listening to Jeaneen Tang, and this episode is entitled "Addressing the Need for Speech Therapy" with Jeaneen Tang, and she's been giving us some amazing nuggets, some wonderful stuff on how very early one, as a caregiver or parent, can learn to understand how to better improve the level of speech for a child despite the challenges that they may have. So, Janine, I just want to play this video for us, and I want you to give us some commentary on how much this meant to you, and it's quite engaging, I believe. So, here we go.
he discovers like a news town every week. Oh my goodness. Oh my god, what is that? Are you laughing? That's crazy. That's new. Oh goodness.
Wow. How old was he then? And I'm sure that brings back fond memories to you. How
Yeah,
old
he
was
was
he
just
then?
5.5 months old, and he was sitting on my mother's
Wow.
lap. And I'm from Hawaii originally, but we live in Los Angeles, and that was our
Uh huh.
first trip back to Hawaii since he was
All
born.
right.
And so
Right.
that was the first time, him meeting my mom. And my mom is so good um, about interacting with kids, and he just really took to her. And you know I learned everything that I do with playing with kids. I learned
Uh
it
huh.
really from my mom, because she's
Wow.
always like, we go to a store and she sees a baby and she can't help but get in that baby's face and play with the baby and let the baby hold her finger and laugh at the baby. And that little interaction, that was his first time laughing.
Yeah.
It was great to get it on camera. And
Yeah.
the quality is not that good because it was a long time ago, but
Uh huh.
um, yeah, he had the best laugh. He just could not stop laughing, and with him laughing was making us laugh, and that also became a back and forth. It's almost like this conversation of laughter. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's it's catching. It's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
It just flows from one. It's infectious. Yeah, that was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for sharing. So, in terms of the things that you do every day with helping people and dealing with shame, how do you get your drive? How do you get your commitment? What is your big why for getting up every morning and jumping feet in and just going through the day and getting stuff done?
It would have to be my son. It would
Yeah.
have to be.
Yeah.
He's the driving force. He is my purpose in life. You know, I want to be the best person I can be, so he can be the best person that he can be. And in order to do that, I need to set a great example, both career wise, staying physically fit, in order for it to keep up with him, because he loves to go to the park and he loves to play. And, to see him, he only uses one arm because he had his stroke. So he only uses his left hand and arm, and he still has some balance problems with his right leg. But he can do taekwondo. He's, a great basketball player for with his disability. He can shoot a regular basketball in a regular basketball net height, which is
Hmm.
amazing and
Yeah.
inspiring because, he doesn't give up. He's never given up,
Mm.
and I can't give up because I need to be an example for him.
Yeah, and I'm sure he got that never give up spirit from his mom, right?
And his dad.
And dad. Okay, great. Wonderful. I'm thinking about the challenges that so many parents have with children. And there is autism, and there are other challenges that people are faced with children. Some naturally have some speech problems for whatever reasons. But is there a difference between the challenges in terms of the treatment or the method that you would use? For example, would someone who has autism be treated differently with regards to the speech therapy than someone who is just struggling from whatever ailment or challenge it might be other than autism?
Yes, definitely there
Uh-huh.
is another level of expertise
Hmm.
that is needed.
Uh-huh.
Uh, you know, with autism, it's a spectrum disorder as well, right? So there are children
Yeah.
who uh, might just need some social skills training in order to interact with peers and to relate to other people. And then there's also the other side of the spectrum who, kids are nonverbal. They might never actually speak. They might not. They might never have functional language. But you want to be able to find the best way that they can possibly communicate. And then also you need to train the parents on how to do that, train the teachers on how to do that as well. So people ask me if I'm afraid of losing a job, right? They're like, well, if you write this book and it creates this great movement of speech therapy by parents and everything, aren't you afraid that you'll be out of a job? And I go, no, because there are always going to be individuals that need speech therapy, and I would like, to decrease the number of children that need speech therapy, by helping others. But there will always be a need for, experts in speech language pathology to treat those more severe, moderate and severe children who um, aren't able to communicate because of something with autism or Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or whatever is impacting their language development.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. Interesting indeed. What about adults who have had a stroke or maybe a high fever or some illness that has left them incapacitated or partially incapacitated with regards to speech? What kind of treatment is there available for them?
Yes, definitely we do. I work what I like to do, I love working with adults and I like working with children. So I work part-time in two different populations,
Okay,
and
yeah.
like, I love both. And when I work with adults, we do see people that have strokes. We do see people that have um, something that has altered their mentation, whether it be some kind of drug or some kind of metabolic imbalance, right? So, working with, for example, patients that have strokes, we're looking at, are they articulating well? Is there enunciation and pronunciation of words? Is that affected by what we call dysarthria or slurring of speech? So, we work on
Mm,
building their muscles back. having them be aware. Sometimes when you have a stroke, you're unaware of the side that's affected. So if I have a stroke on my left side, my right side of my body is going to be affected. I'm going to have facial drooping. I'm going to have weakness on my right side. So that awareness of the body might be decreased. So you want to increase that awareness. Uh, for I like to give like a visual input. So using a mirror or some kind of front-facing camera so they can see themselves is really important. And also working with them on, sometimes they don't understand. When you have a stroke, you can have difficulty understanding language. You can also have a difficulty expressing language, or you can have a difficulty with both. It's called
Yeah.
like a global stroke. And
Yeah.
so finding a way for them to understand what you're talking about, whether it be using flashcards or actual items to ask them questions. Like you might have two things on a table and say, which one is the fork? And they have to point out which one is a fork, because sometimes you lose that ability to understand even the simplest things we take for granted now. And then also expression. They might have to use either pictures to point to. They might have to use an iPad that can talk for them. They might have to speak in single words, or sometimes we have them sing, because if the language part of their brain is on the left and the right side of the brain is where music is, if you blend them together, sometimes they might not be able to say a sentence fluently, but they might be able to sing a sentence fluently.
Wow. Have you had the experience of dealing with someone who is legally blind, and because of that impediment, they have problems with formulating words and understanding visualization because obviously legally they can't see? Have you had the opportunity or the privilege, I should say, of dealing with someone from that perspective and having to help them with their speech therapy challenges?
I personally have not had to work with anybody who was born legally
Yeah.
blind.
Yeah.
I've had patients who became legally blind,
Mm.
and they needed to, they might also have had a stroke or other impairment,
Hmm.
but they already had kind of a foundation of visually what things look like and how to describe things and what the textures of things, say you're having them touch something to describe it or figure out what it is. They kind of already had that. So I know I have not had the honor of working
Experience.
with somebody with a severe congenital visual impairment.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I will. That'd be maybe.
Yeah, maybe, maybe. With regards to the treatment that you do, is there a role for, let's say, physical therapy, dieting, and supplements?
In what I do,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
really. That I would probably defer to a
Mm-hmm.
physical therapist or a dietitian.
Oh, okay.
When we work in the hospitals, I might consult with the physical therapist to see, or the occupational therapist to see how the patient is attending, how are they able to follow directions, how are they, um, able to interact in their therapy sessions. With dietary, because a lot of the patients in the hospitals are adults with swallowing difficulties. And in the hospital, we actually work with swallowing. We do swallow evaluations. So sometimes we will definitely have to work with the dietitians to adjust the texture of foods. So when you think about it, we're born into this world not being able to eat solid foods, right? We have to have puree foods, and we move on to solid foods, and then so forth. And if you are naturally going through this world, you're going to eventually not be able to eat solid foods again, because maybe you don't have any teeth, or maybe you're having problems with chewing because you don't have strong muscles, and then eventually you need to go back down to puree food. So adjusting the diet, the texture of the food is important, and also adjusting the thickness of liquids. So I'm not sure if you've ever had experience with somebody who's had a stroke or somebody that's older that starts choking on liquids regularly.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I've seen it happen to several people, and it's very uncomfortable to have that experience. I can only imagine. But I've seen a couple people struggle with it as well, and yeah, there had to be somebody who is constantly there and aware of the situation and have at least some basic level of training to assist them, so that they can
Yeah.
get some form of relief and comfort. How important a role does AI play in what you do with regards to the modules that you have that people can tune into, including what you do with the book?
So, like I said, I'm not techie, so I don't really know too much about AI things. I haven't gotten to that level yet, so I'm not really sure how AI would, play a part in my therapy. But I'm sure AI is going to play a part in speech therapy in general, right? So you can probably program some kind of app or computer program to have a conversation, right, with somebody. So in social skills training, you might say, you know, have the AI respond to the child or person as if it was an actual person. So, you can have a back and forth conversation with a AI or
I
something.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Okay, wonderful. So we have been in the company of Jeaneen Tang, addressing the need for speech therapy. We're going to break for a short commercial break as we come to the end of this episode. The commercial that you're going to see is from fineradioguest.com, and I really want to thank them for supporting me in my efforts to keep this podcast alive. They give me free bumps ever so often on my profile, and it's a wonderful thing. So, we thank you so much for your continued support. Continue to give us some reviews. Go on Apple, go on Spotify, give us some reviews, give us some ratings, and let us know that you also want to subscribe and follow our podcast. So let's have this short break from liveradioguest.com, and be right back with Jeaneen to wrap up. Stand by. FindRadioGuest.com, the place to click to find guests to interview for free. And if you're a radio show booker, podcaster, talk show host, or television producer, then this is the place to get podcasts and radio interviews or promote your books and products as a guest expert sponsor. FindRadioGuest.com. Check it out. Thank you, FindRadioGuest.com, for your continued support and your commitment, making it possible for many to have themselves viewed around the world with regards to their podcasting services and their book services, authors, writers, you name it. Helping our profiles to be there online with bumps ever so often. Thank you so much. So, Jeaneen, what does the future hold for you with regards to the work that you're doing and your amazing son, Che?
So I would like to, move forward and start some online trainings so I can create a greater outreach.
Yeah.
Getting my book into the hands of as many people as possible to get the word out there is amazing. And then, for Che, he's going to be starting middle school in just
Ah,
like a couple weeks, and so that's going to be a big challenge for us, to have him meet new friends and to just continue his education and his journey to be the most amazing person he could possibly be.
yeah. It's going to work out. It's going to be all right. I know it will be. So I'm putting up some stuff there on the screen, but you can tell us and the audience how they can make contact with you if they need your expertise, and how they can get the book. I know Amazon is one place as well.
Yeah. So you can go to my website. It's playdumbandsabotage.com. And from there, my book is on there. A link from my book is on there. And you could also reach out to me on the Instagram link, which is Play Dumb and Sabotage or JT808. And I'm also on LinkedIn at Jeaneen Tang.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So there you have it, folks. We have been live in the breakout room for the past 45 minutes or so with Jeaneen Tang addressing the need for speech therapy. Remember, we stand for health, happiness, and prosperity on this podcast. Until next time, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development together with our guest, Jeaneen Tang, saying so long. Thank you for your continued support and your commitment. Please subscribe or like us and do your rating and your review on Apple and Spotify. God bless. Godspeed. Aloha. Shalom.
Hello.
Aloha. Shalom. Namaste. Bye for now,
Thank you.
guys. Wonderful.